Today we're going to talk about the financial mindscape of the American consumer. Melissa did a survey. In the survey, the question was, what concerns you the most? The results of the survey. And a little surprising to me, and I'll tell you why in a second, but a little surprising to me was that 42% were worried about marketing. Only 17% were worried about messaging, 17% about questioning, and 25% about process. So marketing and process got the most responses. In other words, the two things that concern people the most is marketing and process. And the reason I think that's a little bit funny is because marketing is really primarily successful because of the messaging that you use. So if you send out an email, if you do a Facebook ad, if you do media marketing, besides some of the technical stuff that's involved in emails, which is your click-through rate and your open rate and delivery and some of that kind of stuff. But aside from that, what makes your messaging what makes your marketing successful is the messaging. So I just think it was funny that most people are at the marketing aspect rather than the messaging side of it. Can you make that big again for me? There you go. Good, thank you. And then the process, because the sales process is pretty well spelled out. I mean, historically, we know in almost every industry the reason and the way people buy things. And that process follows the dominant buying motive and the messaging people have. So how true is that? Well, I'm going to give you an example of how true that is here. Sorry, let me back to this for a second. So if you subscribe to Lerma, one of the things that you see in Lerma, and they do all the time, is they do these surveys. And we started off today talking about the surveys of the financial mindscape of the American consumer. So they did a survey, and here's the purpose of their survey. Consumers allocate their household budget across a number of competing financial priorities. So when they become concerned, which when you read this, you can read faster than I can. When you read this, you should be shocked today because it's so simple. And the reason it's so simple, it's such a simple concept, is because who isn't concerned about gas prices today, right? Who isn't concerned about grocery prices? And a year ago, you might not have had the same concern about gas prices. Over the weekend on Sunday, my wife and I went out for a little while, and we passed the gas station. It was $4.14. We went a couple of miles, and then the gas was $4.08. We went a couple more miles, and it was $4.04. So it's almost every block you go builds up the nerves and builds up the anxiety because you don't know what the next price is going to be. And the same thing is happening with food. So it just speaks, I mean, this survey here speaks to the irony that the problems and the pains and concern that consumers are going through are pretty universal. So we know, I mean, it makes sense to understand how the American consumers weigh life insurance, just as one of the products, but how they weigh life insurance relative to all their other financial problems. It means that we have to understand their financial mindscape. So today I'm going to break all this down for you. At the end of this, I'm going to give you some questions that you can ask. But as we go through this, I want to get your opinion about a couple of things. So the concern by gender and marital status, what do we notice here? We notice that women are more concerned about 8 specific items, notably emergency savings, financial support if disabled, medical expenses, and long-term care expenses. In other words, women are primarily concerned about those 4 things. And so in your mind, if you were putting together a marketing piece, what is it that would be when you're messaging in your marketing? Type in the chat box and tell me. Just from what we've seen so far, if you gather a marketing piece to market your yourself and your services. Just based on what we're looking at now, what would be one of the messages? What would be one of the themes of your marketing piece? Because we're talking about women and what their primary concerns are. And you see the little bit difference under men. Men are more concerned on losing money on investments. So if we're going to do a marketing message, it kind of helps know a little bit about what concerns them. You should be selling the problem people have, not the product or service that you offer. Saving money and reducing cost. That's regarding who? Type in there, is that regarding men or women? Because under women, if I was going to put together a marketing message, I would say, I would put a subject line that addressed financial support if disabled. Or I would put under the subject line something regarding emergency savings. Yeah, women, maintain dignity when life happens. That's great. Garth did a great job on that. And the same thing on the marital status. So on your piece of paper, there's two things you want to write down. So we're going to talk about putting together a marketing plan. We're looking at who we're going to market this to. One of them is gender. So are you marketing to men, women, or both? And on marital status, what is their primary concern? Well, for couples, they're more concerned over dependence and financial situation if they die, their dependents' education, and leaving an inheritance. And yet long-term care insurance is one of the most difficult to sell. Well, maybe it is. In one of our other classes, we'll address that. Maybe it is. And maybe the reason, here's my question. Is it difficult to sell because people don't understand the product, or to sell because we're selling the wrong thing? So on marriage, for single people, what are they concerned about? They're more concerned over financial support if disabled and mortgage and rent. So if I was going to put together a marketing plan, the audience I'm going to seek out, here's two ways to define them. By gender, and I look at what women are concerned about. So if I'm into women, either married or single, I'm going to have to figure out the messaging that they're concerned about. I'm not going to figure out the messaging that I like or that resonates with me, right? I'm going to figure out the messaging that they're concerned about. So a marketing message around women, we've got marketing message around men. Next marketing message that we want to look at is by generation. And for millennials, their high levels of concern are they have higher levels of concern over Gen X and baby boomers of those 5 items. So mortgage, rent, monthly bills, and leaving an inheritance. And Gen Xers are more concerned than boomers on most items. So again, financial support if disabled, dependents, education, retirement, and reducing credit card. So now we have 4 criteria, right? Gender, marital status, millennials, Gen X's. So that's the younger generation. Now we can drill down and look at our marketing plan by income. And those with under $50,000 in income are more concerned about their monthly bills and their mortgage and rent. Now remember, this is from Lerma, so they did a study with consumers, and this is what the consumers are coming back telling you. This isn't what I'm telling you. This isn't what some insurance company is telling you. This is what consumers are saying are their primary concern. So 50,000 to 99,000, they're concerned about financial support if disabled and long-term care expenses. And then if they make 100,000 a year or more, it's losing money on investments. So again, I'm going to go back. We have gender and marital status. I'm going to put together a marketing campaign. I'm going to figure out who my audience is. So I'm going to decide what gender I'm going to market to. Is it going to be women, men, both? I'm going to decide what their marital status is. Is it a couple? Is it single people? I'm going to break it down even further by millennials or Gen X's or maybe the baby boomers. And then I'm going to look at it by income. And the more I take them down this funnel, the more I can refine my message. Because when you create a marketing piece, whether it's an email template, social media marketing, Facebook ad, Google AdWords, whatever you're doing, what is the primary thing you have to consider? When people see or either are exposed to your marketing, maybe it's in an email, and they see that email, what is it that you want them to feel? I mean, think about that with all the messaging that you would do. What is it that you want them to feel? And then the second thing is, what do you want them to do? So once they see your piece, what emotional reaction do you want them to have to it? And remember what your competition is. Your competition is the noise of their environment. Whether they're sitting on a subway train, whether they're sitting at a relative's house, in a restaurant somewhere, in the back seat of a car, driving a car, you're competing with their environment. What is it you want them to feel? What do you want them to do? And how easy do you make it for them to do that? Now that we know how to break down who we're targeting, then what are the attitudes that we're going to target? I thought this is a really good. I thought this was a really good slide. Over 80% of consumers agree that most people need life insurance. And one of the things, see, you are the solution to the problem. I agree with that. Sylvia says you are the solution to the problem. So really what you're selling is the problem they have. You're never, ever selling the market because they're not interested. Anybody, anytime, you probably have had this experience, anytime I call me up about life insurance or health insurance, I'll bet you 60%, if not more of the time, they had some health issue that disqualified them. There was a reason they were seeking it out. You know, it's like dental insurance. I mean, if you had bad teeth and you needed a root canal, you had cavities, and you got a marketing piece, and that marketing piece said that you got first aid dental coverage for all levels of care. When you bought that plan, how quick would you file a claim? The next day. I mean, I work with companies all the time where they get nailed with a claim the very next day. I remember when MedSup Plan N came out back in, I think it was 2010. Mutual of Omaha came out with it. And we told them, hey, whoa. You need to slow down on this. No, this is a great thing to do. And in 1 year, they had adverse selection. So people are not really interested in the product, but they are interested in the problems that they have. So someone on Facebook said, it's in their mind, and that's true. But look at this is life insurance attitudes just in general. The primary wage earner in a family needs life insurance. 90% of the response said the primary wage earner in a family needs life insurance. So if I was putting together a marketing, my subject line might be something related to the primary wage earner needs life insurance. And why would I use that as a good subject line? I mean, I would work on the wording. Why would I use that as a good subject line? Because that's it. I'm talking their language. And so you can see the statistic on data. 100 million underinsured in life insurance. Someone from Facebook said that. Absolutely. There's no question about that. Now, here's one that I think is really interesting. And I think you can do some really great marketing messaging with this. This is life insurance attitude for couples. And I love this one here. I wish my spouse or partner would purchase more life insurance. It seems like to me a great message would be, like I can envision a great subject line in an email or a great Facebook ad, right? And you have to have them a certain size when you run those Facebook ads. and you make it clickable so that you either drive them to a landing page where they watch a short video and then the call to action at the end of it, where they can either get a download, they can get an appointment with you, or they can apply right now, right? That's your 3 call to actions. But I can see the messaging since they've said, now here's the other thing that's interesting. Look at this, all boomers, Gen X, and millennials. So who said this the most? Type in the chat box and tell me who said this the most. I wish my spouse would purchase more life insurance. Who do you think said that the most? Type it in the chat box. And the reason I think that's such an interesting statistic there is most people don't actually think that millennials care. But yet, millennials are the one who said, 42% said, I wish my spouse or partner would purchase more life insurance. So in my marketing piece, I might actually say something to the effect, don't you wish your spouse would buy more life insurance? And the reason for that is because if someone read that and that's how they felt, their response would be yes. And I think that any marketing piece we put out there, we want them to say yes. That's why I love this piece here. I don't know how much life insurance my spouse or partner has. So I might turn that into a question. And turn it into a question that would be the call to action. And that might be, the question might be, let's find out how much life insurance your partner has. That might be the call to action in the subject line or in the ad piece that causes them to have a look.